and the leadership team is traveling back and forth. We're going to skip March for a meeting, unfortunately. So that just means that instead of taking off August like we normally do, we'll probably have a meeting in August. So we'll just push everything. So there won't be a meeting in March. There's a meeting in April with one of our friends from school. So that's April. Okay, let me introduce Ivar. So Ivar Grimstad is from the Eclipse Foundation. He's a Jakarta EE Developer Advocate, of course, a Java champion. And I think how many Java champions are there? There's like 403 out of 8 million Java developers, which is a pretty good percentage. Ivar is located in Sweden. The temperature like now, is it like this?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I'm from the south.
Okay. And before advocating for Jakarta EE technologies, Ivar contributes to the Jakarta EE spec and is the project management committee leader for the Eclipse Enterprise for Java, EE4J. He's also one of the spec leads for Jakarta MVC, model view controller, and represents Eclipse Foundation on the JCP Executive Committee. So here's Ivar.
Thank you very much, and I hope you got some pizza over there. I had a morning run all over Manhattan to pay for that pizza because you know the security. I have to pin code it. I can do it on the phone. So I put on my jogging shoes and I ran from Times Square down here and back up again after. We have some stickers over there if you want some Jakarta stickers, and I have some little swag. We can either do athlete or it can be prizes for asking good questions. So, how many of you are here because of the AI in the title? And how many are here because of Jakarta EE in the title? Okay, a couple of good. So this will be a little bit of this slide says it all. It's Jakarta EE meets AI. It's how to integrate AI in your Java applications. And it's all about Java. So there will be no Python because when AI kind of came a couple of years ago, everybody had to learn Python to do AI. You know? But now with your enterprise applications, you don't need to. I'll show how in this slide. So Frank said most of this. These are my social media accounts. I'm mostly active on Blue Sky these days, but I occasionally post on the other medias as well. Some pictures on Instagram for my trip there in New York, and so just follow me and engage in any of the channel you feel comfortable with if you want. All right, so how many? I see we're about, how many were not born in '95? So we were all there when Java was. We know Java is Java 1 is Java 1 will celebrate 30 years of Java. And that's pretty amazing. 30 years. And for a programming language. And it's still one of the top, or maybe the most used programming language out there. And one of the reasons to that is J2EE. J2EE came in 99 because Java was originally made for devices. It's made for tablets and user interfaces. But it soon turned out to be very good on server side. So J2EE came to address that problem. But of course, J2EE was a little bit over-engineered. And Spring came along in 2004 to address these issues and make it a little simpler. So we went from XML to XML. And Spring kind of introduced the dependency injection and inversion control. J2EE kind of did a rebranding to answer all this of Java EE, which you still probably see LinkedIn recruiters looking for J2EE developers. But that's been since 2006. It's almost 20 years ago. It was called Java EE, and it kind of addressed a lot of the stuff that Spring brought along. So at that time, there were equal those platforms. And Spring also did the folks in Spring team did the JSR 330, which is add inject. So in Spring you can use add inject and add autowire interchangeably. And so you got annotation based dependency injection in Java. And at that time, J2E or Java EE and Spring was fairly much equal. And then Spring Boot came along and kind of changed that picture again. And Spring Boot has been around for 10 years. That's also an old technology, old piece of technology, but it's still out there and still going strong. And of course, nowadays, most Java Enterprise or Java server side is developed using Spring Boot. But there are still a lot of Java EE or Jakarta EE, as we rebranded it in 2017 when we moved it from the JCP over to Eclipse Foundation. And this is probably the last name change we're going to have. So now it's Jakarta EE going to the end. And part of that rebranding in 2020, we did the namespace change, and we probably all have been affected by that in some way or the other. And this kind of shows a little bit of the significance of Jakarta EE, not only as a platform and the technology and itself, but all the APIs and everybody who used them in some way or the other. Even Spring, you had the namespace change when you bumped your version from Spring Boot 2 to Spring Boot 3. So that namespace change had a pretty good impact on our ecosystem, but it was probably a good thing as well. Even though we're not going to do it again, but if you look at the libraries out there that are still on the Java X namespace, that's a good indication that they're not maintained any longer. So you kind of have a clue of what you should go for. And now we're talking, it's 2025, but in 2024, the plan was to release Jakarta EE 11. So let's that was kind of a very simplified timeline, but let's look at what Jakarta EE is in addition to the namespace. And Jakarta EE is all about specifications, and a specification is a human readable document, a text that describes the technology. It's also an API artifact that is on Maven Central that we as developers are using when we develop. And it's a TCK or test compatibility kit that is used to verify that an implementation fulfills all the requirements in the specification. And when it does, passes all the tests in the TCK, it is a compatible implementation. And every spec has at least one open source compatible implementation to be ratified as a final specification. From there on, it can be commercial implementations as well, but at least one open source. And the current release is Jakarta EE 10 out there now. We had hoped it would be 11. I'll get a little bit back to that in a couple of slides. And as you see, with this is 10. And all the blue ones were updated from 9 to 10. And the reason why there were so many is that we didn't do any API changes in 9. Because 9 was the namespace change, and we wanted to minimize the impact on the community. Because if we had done some API changes there as well, you would have a lot harder work doing that migration than just changing the namespace. So the method signatures, everything were the same. So that was why we had a lot of changes in 10. But it didn't stop there. If we compare to 11, you see it's a lot of changes going on there as well. So the technology is moving forward. It's not the same ones updated, but about more than half of them are. And we're also adding some new specifications. And the new one in Jakarta EE 11 is Jakarta Data. So let's look a little bit on Jakarta EE 11. And relax, we'll get to the AI part. But this is kind of a foundation, so we know what we're talking about. So this is the Jakarta EE 11 platform. That is all the specifications that are part of the platform. We also have specifications that are not part of the platform, that are standalone specifications that could be potential candidates for inclusion later. But these are the ones that are included in the platform, and the platform itself is also a specification, and it has a TCK, an API, and compatible implementations. And the compatible implementation of the platform, that's what we know as application servers, like JBoss and WebSphere and the like. A subset of the platform is the Jakarta 11 web profile. And web profile is those specifications that are more targeting the traditional web application. So you don't have all the enterprise connections and stuff you probably don't need in these simpler applications, but you have everything you need from persistence and security and UIs and what. And then in 10, we introduced a new profile. And this was the first time we did that since Java EE 6. So it's been that when web profile was introduced. So we introduced the core profile. And core profile are targeting microservices or RESTful endpoints. So these are the specifications that you typically would need to create a simple microservice. And that's the core profile. Jakarta 11 we're raising the source level there to Java 17. So you have to be on at least 17 in order to use these APIs. So all the features up until 17 can be used and be available in the APIs. We compile them to 17, but we make sure that the TCK run on 17 and 21 and above. So we are, as app developers, we can use Java 21 and above features if we want to, but we make sure it works on 17 and 21. So if you want to stay on 17, you can do that. And this is the same strategy we did with 10, but then it was Java 11 and 17. So and this is what we're also continuing to do in Jakarta EE 12. Then we were running on 21 and 25. We may compile it to 17 still, but we will make sure it runs on the latest LTS. And that kind of establishes our release cadence for Jakarta EE now. So it's about a half year or so, a little bit floating, but after the latest LTS of Java. So last summer, it was 9 months since Java 21. So that last summer was when we had planned to get 11 out. We managed to get the core profile released in December. So it was at least in 2024. But the web profile is scheduled to be released in Q1. So we're hoping to get it out within the next week. And the platform following after that. The reason for that delay, if you want to call it that, is that we're refactoring the TCK. And the TCK for the platform is a massive project. It's millions of lines of code, and is written in a test framework that was developed by Sun back in 1999, and nobody knows how to use it any longer. So we're moving back to newer technologies using JN5 and Archillion and other stuff, and also moving it from it was Ant based, and now it's based on Maven at least. So it's been on the road from Make to Ant and now to Maven. So we're modernizing the TCK in order to make it easier for younger developers to use it and help develop it. The APIs for the platform and all the implementations were feature complete in May. So there is a milestone of the Maven Central that has everything in the APIs that we're delivering. And for each of the component specifications, all the blue ones on my chart, has a API jar released, and there is a compatible implementation, and that has passed the TCK. And compatible implementation of these standalones are, for example, Hibernate for Jakarta persistence. So if you're using Spring Boot and you're using Hibernate with your Spring Data JPA, then you're using a Jakarta EE implementation directly, because they just pull it in and use it directly. And also every Spring Boot application runs on Tomcat, and Tomcat is a servlet API. So they also have the newest version of Service 6.1. So yeah, Q4 2024 was what we were hoping for. I wanted this slide to be Q1 2025, but it kind of destroys my 2-year cadence in the diagram, so I don't want to do it right now. But yeah, we'll get to the AI part. Don't worry. I'll go through a couple of these specifications that I'm going to use in the demos. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one of them is Jakarta RESTful Web Services. And this one used to be called JAX-RS. And an implementation of that is REST-easy or Jersey. And you can use Jersey with Spring. So how many are Spring developers? Or using Spring? Jakarta EE or Java EE? Okay. So Jakarta RESTful Web Services 4.0 did mostly just clean up, and it's a mentally preparation to deprecate the native component model. That was the big thing, because that they have their own injected resources and stuff, and they want to move it over to CDI. I'll get into what CDI is in the next slide, and also remove a dependency that on Jakarta XML binding that we removed from the platform. There are also some convenience methods here. Then we have CDI, and CDI is sort of the glue that glues everything together in Jakarta EE. And CDI is for context and dependency injection. And they're on version 4.1, so it's a small release this time. And what they're doing is support records and seal types. So a common theme in this release is to support records. So and also the actuary and producers can also be useful for development. We're also moving the integration requirements in CDI over to the platform spec. And these integration requirements there are lots of stuff in CDI telling in that specification saying how it should interact with the EJBs. So we're moving that integration over to the platform in order to make it easier for us if we want to remove EJBs in the future. And we're also talking about in Jakarta 12 to introduce a @service annotation that will give you the same features as a stateful enterprise. So we're kind of making us itself ready for deprecating that piece of technology. Also, JSON binding is one I'm going to use here in this presentation. And JSON binding is to move things from JSON to Java and back. So you have a JSON file, you can get populate a class or a record with that data. So, and also, I just want to talk about Jakarta data a little bit. I'm not going to use it here unless you want to see a demo of it, then I can demo it. But if you're a Spring developer, you've probably seen this as a Spring data repository. Well, it may be a surprise to you that this is actually not Spring data. This is Jakarta data. So you may say we're copying it, and we kind of are. But it's a proven technology, and that's what we do. We take things that work and standardize it. So we create a Jakarta data specification that will be very familiar for Spring data developers. So you can do the same thing in Jakarta EE, because we want to offer Jakarta developers the same tool features that Spring uses for that. But we're adding more. We also have the Jakarta data query language, the JDQL, and that is something the Spring doesn't have. This is a subset of the Jakarta persistence query language. And this is a super simple example that you can write a query in an annotation using this query language and not just be relying on the method name. And there's an opportunity here. If you're a developer that wants to create a career and be a superhero in open source, there is desperate need for a Jakarta data implementation, both at Apache and at Eclipse Foundation. So there is a couple of implementations out there. IBM has one in Open Liberty, and Red Hat has one in Hibernate. But we would like to see it in Eclipse Link, and we would like to see it in OpenJPA. So if we want to contribute to those projects and help them create an implementation of Jakarta data, either as a part of that project or a standalone specification implementation, they would be super happy. So let's move to the AI thing. And I'll do that with a demo. Before I do that, do you want to see a demo of Jakarta data? So let's do the Jakarta data first. So I have Jakarta data here. I'm on Java 23. I have this milestone of the Jakarta data, Jakarta platform APIs. And apart from that, I don't have any dependencies. And this is one of the advantages of Jakarta EE. You don't have all these dependencies that you would see in a Spring Boot application, where you're dragging half the internet every time you build something. But this is a provided thing. So my deliverable here, the jar or WAR file that I produced from this one, is super thin. And if we're containerizing it, and you have the application server in the base image in a container, you just add that application that is a couple of Ks. It's not megabytes or something. So it's very fast to rebuild and redistribute these containers. In this one, I'm going to run it in Maven. So I have a OpenLiberty plugin to run this with the latest version of OpenLiberty. Looking at the source, I have this is the way you configure a Jakarta RESTful application. So you extend the Jakarta RS core application and annotate it with the application path. So then I've set that it's the API path on my page. Then I create a resource. So this is kind of like the REST controller in Spring, the app path annotation, whereas it's the app greetings. Where I have a get that finds all, calls it the find all method on the greeting repository. So you can see, I pressed escape. I shouldn't do that. So where are we gonna happen again? So this one has a lot of method like find all and save and stuff. In the post method, I'm doing the save. And the greeting repository itself, it's just like extends script repository. So if I wanted to do this, like find by name or something, I can do the same thing as I would do in the Spring application. Somehow the keyboard doesn't work anymore. Why have I lost the control of the system? There we go. So if I want to return a optional, I'll try to ignore the AI stuff that pops up there. I don't trust AI. So I'll rather type everything wrong myself. So okay, I'm not trusting it. So I'll return a what's optional of greeting like this. So find by ID, no, find by name, ignore case, something like that. And this is the same way you can do with and this should be Spring. So I return a greeting if I find it. But before I do this, I'll just go and start this application, and I can do that with naming claim package Liberty dev. So I'll start Liberty in dev mode, so I don't have to.
Yeah.
So it's up and running. What I can do is now to see, do I have any greetings in the database? And I have some greetings from our last demo I did there. So it's, I have like hello from Duke, Dukes, and I have Miss Duke and everything. So I have some stuff in the database. If I wanted to add a new one, let's call like from NYD, because we're in New York. So I'll call this one NYD, like this, and post this one, and then I'll go and read, and now you can see I have this message from this new Duke. And if I now want to find it by name, so I only want to return one of these, I can now use my new method that I created. So I'll just cheat a little here. So I created this method where I get from a name in the path, and I use this find by name ignore case method that I just created, and I get the message from it, and I write not found if I don't find it. So if I now go to the rest here, and I say I want to NY2. This one I want to see, and then you can see I get hello from NYD. So it works exactly the same as you see from Spring Data. Kill this one. And then let's get to the AI. So, as I said, you don't need to have Python. We write our application in Java, and we just want to use some AI in our application. And you've probably done this 100 times before, but I'll show a bunch of ways of how to do it. And all the ways are basically the same. You have an application and you call an AI, whether it's local, somewhere else in your organization or somewhere, but it's usually you call a service somewhere. And of course, Spring has a very good solution for this. And they have Spring AI. And the way you do that is that you use the Spring AI application and call something. And in these demos, I'm going to use OpenAI. That's just because I bought a credit for $5 there. So I have some resources, and I don't pay for any others. So I'll just use that one. But if you're using something else, just replace Open with whatever AI you use. And anybody using Spring AI? Yeah, cool. So it is actually very cool. Spring AI is awesome, and you can just go into the starter initializer in Spring and just generate a Spring AI project, and that's what I have done there. So I have the Spring Boot starter 3.39. I think that's the latest version of Spring Boot, and I'm using the Spring AI version milestone 6. And I have the Spring Boot starter web because I wanted to create a REST endpoint. And I have the Spring AI starter. So this is how you configure it. You give them the starter stuff. So I have these two components. So I have a RESTful endpoint and a AI component. The other stuff there is just how you get generated from Spring. So you don't have to really pay attention to that. So the code is very cool. So this is Spring Boot application. Nothing weird. I have a Spring AI resource that is a REST controller, and it auto-wires in a AI service. I'll get to why I'm doing this. I could have done everything in this class, but I'm doing it in a separate component. I'll show why in a couple of demos. It has this get mapping, that's the path annotation in Jakarta AI, gets a message from there and calls the AI with this message. So it's just super simple, but you can replace with whatever advanced thing you're doing with AI. And the AI service itself is just a Spring component. And it auto-wires in the chat client builder. And it has this call method, that's the one I'm calling from here, where I just call the builder.build prompt with a message, call, and get the content. So it's very fluent API, very simple to use. So if I want to run this one on plain package, just to make sure I've got the latest version. And then I'll there we go. Running. And then I can add, just say, tell me, maybe I should no. So I can just call it here and say they calls out to the AI and get something. But so you see how easy it is to use. It's the way Spring does things. Very easy to do simple. Of course, we have a lot of technologies in Jakarta EE, and Quarkus is one of them. Anybody using Quarkus? Okay, so Quarkus is more the Jakarta EE way of doing things, even though they aren't compatible implementations of anything. They kind of borrow a little here and there from all the APIs and have their own kind of thing, but the basis of their entire thing is Jakarta EE and the bottom. And Quarkus has a very a programming model that is a little bit more what we're used to in Jakarta EE, but the configuration part is very like Spring. So this is what you get when you use the Quarkus starter to create. They also have Quarkus REST, JSON-B, you can use the name, and they have LangChain for JOpenIR. And the other things are just Quarkus run things. So in this one, I have the I don't need the application. It's kind of implicit in Quarkus. So it is a REST application. It's a Jakarta REST application by default. You see all the Jakarta REST stuff. So I just say it's on this endpoint. I have the Dux AI resource. I inject the AI service here. Also, I could have done it like in the same, but I'm doing it similar for all the technologies I'm using. And this one is just also doing it takes a message and calls the AI service. And the AI service, that's where it gets interesting with Quarkus, because they more this CDI based annotation based configuration. So you have the accurate register AI service that takes care of everything for you. And then I can say call and use user message, string message. If I wanted to give it something else, I could use also. I'm sorry, I could say system message and give it a system message to the call as well, or other configurations. So this is just the simplest thing possible. Of course, I didn't show in Spring AI the configuration part because you have to give it something, and what you give Spring for it to work is the OpenAI API key. And of course, I'm not showing it here for you. So it's a system variable in my, but this is where you just replace for your own key. And it's the same thing with the Quarkus. Is they also have the application properties where you give them the API key. So that's the only configuration you actually need. And Quarkus is Quarkus. It's a little bit simpler to you can probably run Spring from Maven as well, but with the Quarkus you can just use Quarkus run. And it's fairly quick to start, but I'm still running the Spring Boot application. So it usually starts fairly quick. It's up and running, and now I can again give in the same message, and this one will call the OpenAI. So you can see how minimal amount of code is needed to get this up and running. So it's fairly simple. and a little bit more Jakarta EE, kind of the way we do things in Jakarta EE. Not the Spring Boot way. So Jakarta EE then. What if I want to use just Jakarta EE with this stuff? Is that possible? And yeah, it is. Because all of this stuff, the Quarkus thing and the Spring thing, that's just a wrapper for an HTTP request, where they call the API for OpenAI. And I mean, calling the HTTP endpoints, that's what we know. That's what every technology, everything Spring Boot does underneath there, they use the APIs from Jakarta to do those calls anyway. So why don't just do those calls directly? And if you look at the documentation for OpenAI, I just discovered today that the stuff I'm using in this demo is legacy. So, so things are moving so fast, you know. So, but it still works. And they've moved the completion to chat completion. So it's probably just the endpoint has changed and maybe some parameters in the objects. But I'll do this legacy. I don't want to jeopardize anything here on stage. So I'll just call this legacy completions. But it's kind of the same. It's now called chat completions, but it does exactly the same thing. That's what you do when you chat. So it's called a completion, and we get a completion response. So what I'm doing is I'm going to call this one, and I have to give him something. So I'll give this completion object in, and the response I'm getting back is the completion response, which has a lot of stuff. And the only thing I'm interested in is just to give it is actually the prompt. All the other things in this simple case is just kind of stuff you have to give it, like which model to use and that kind of stuff. So I want to use just defaults everywhere, and this is the prompt I want to send it. And the thing I'm interested in getting back is just the content of the message I'm getting back. So and of course I can do this super manually and parse the JSON, or I can use JSONB to just map it directly to the Java object. And if I have a Java object that directly maps to JSON, I don't have to annotate it with anything. It's just a code job. If I, for some reason, want to call the prompt another thing, then I have to have an annotation that does that mapping. But if I just keep the same structure, I don't have to do anything. So let's look at a Jakarta EE application doing this. So, and this Jakarta EE application is kind of like the data one I showed you earlier. It's using the 11 milestone. And I don't have anything else. I have a couple of plugins here because I want to show different runtimes. So I'm running in OpenLiberty. I'll show you how to run in Pyara, and I'll show you how to run in Wi-Fi. And I'm not going to do any code changes in between. You can just drop. And that's also one of the advantages of Jakarta EE is that you compile an application and it's independent of what runtime you're using and whether your organization are using, or Oracle customer are using their product, or IBM using their product, the application will look the same. So let's and I can also actually show the it's Jakarta thing. If I run it in package, I'm not sure if I need the package thing. Liberty dev, then I can make the changes and OpenLiberty will just pick them up as we go. So I have the application, just extend the application. I've created a resource there, and so the structure should be similar to the others. So this is an inject a OpenAI client that doesn't do anything yet. And I have this get resource that takes a message and sends to this OpenAI client. So now we're going to implement this OpenAI client just using the Jakarta EE APIs. And the first thing I'm going to do is to create this mapping between the JSON to a Java object. So I'm going to call this completion. And I'm going to use a template here, so I'm not going to write everything. So this is a direct mapping from that JSON you saw on the API, this one over here, and it's only the part I need to be able to kind of traverse down to the message, and the message is a part of messages. That is part of the content. So just that, you know, we're going to further stump it. Or no, to populate it so it will send stuff in. And then the same thing with the completion response. I'm just going to use this one. And the completion response is also exactly the same way. The thing I'm interested in is the content string. And the content is part of the messages, which is part of the choices, and so I have to and this is kind of the minimal thing. In a real world application, you map it more carefully, or use a API that is generated for you using Swagger or something, so you have everything under control. This is kind of the super simple manual way of doing it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to create a request. So I'm taking this completion object and I'm just populating it with the minimal amount of thing. So I'm taking this message, taking it in the content and adding it. Then I'm going to create a client to do this, and this is the Jakarta RESTful services client. So I have this client that I can use to call this stuff. And then I'm gonna call this one. So what I do there is I take the client, I set the target that we run from the API documentation. And I say that this is the type of data I'm sending is JSON. I'm giving it the OpenAI API key authorization. And I'm saying the completion is the entity I'm posting. So it's a fluent, very nice API to send over. Then I'm gonna get the content from the response I'm getting back. So I have this response object. I'm reading the entity into it comes as a JSON string. So the read entity into the completion response object. That's the JSON-D. That's the into the Java object form. And then I'm going to traverse down to get choices, get the first one, get messages, get one, because this is very brittle and potentially null pointers exceptions, not the null pointers banned. But you can get that so you do this more carefully in production code. But this is all I need. So what I can do now is actually call this one again. And now it's using the Jakarta EE, just when you look at no dependencies, because you know what a dependency is in your code. That's a vulnerability. That's a security risk. So the fewer dependencies you have in your application, the better. But of course, it is sort of verbose to write these APIs yourself, and the bigger it becomes and the more you're interacting, it kind of gets hard to handle. So that's when you probably want to have a library or something to help you with. And luckily there are libraries out there that does things like this. And the most popular one these days are LangChain4j. Anybody using LangChain4j? So LangChain4j is a open source project. It's a Java implementation of LangChain. So it has a lot of support for interacting with AI systems. And it plays very well along with Jakarta EE. So let's look at how we can use LangChain4j with Jakarta EE. So I'm going to take use the same application that I'm already using. And I'm just going to add LangChain4j for it. So I have my dependency here. So I'm going to add the LangChain4j dependencies, and I need two of them. I need the LangChain4j core and the LangChain4j OpenAI. And here is where, if you're using something else, there are libraries for everything. So, and also there is a newer version, so obviously 1.0 beta. So you see, from when I started doing this talk in September last year, it was at 0.33, and now it's at 1.0 beta. So it is moving and changing, and I have to update the application. I didn't have to do any code changes between 0.33 and 1.0 beta, but you never know.
Are you using generate?
Sorry?
Are you using the method generate? In like chat, they changed generate to chat.
They did, okay, yeah. So yeah, so probably so you have to be a little bit observant when you do this things. And now I can actually I can remove this one OpenAI client because I don't need it anymore. I can remove the completion but I'll just leave it there so we remember that I had it, right? So but I'm not going to use it anymore because now what I can do now is oh sorry, there we go. So I'll just do the let's see if I have the demo length chain for J. There we go. I don't know what's happening. Yeah. Probably some HMI things. There we go. So what I'm doing here is and this is probably something that I've changed. Yeah, so they have changed. So yeah, you know what? Do you want to try and figure it out, or should I do the builder? No, you know what?
You're doing what I did the other night.
So let's not be that adventurous. We use 0.35. I've used that one. So yeah. So this is something you need to be aware when you're doing with these AI things. They change all the time because it's not a mature technology yet. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the model, saying I'm using the API key and I'm using the model generator. This was what Frank was talking about. It's now called chat. So it kind of aligns more with the others, but and then I get the content. So this is how this is done. I'll see if Open Liberty can manage these compilation errors. Yeah. So now I can call this one. And now it's using LangChain for J, and not my API, and you can see the code is much simpler. But this is kind of more of a Spring programming model, and we don't really like that in Jakarta EE. We like the injection and CDI. So luckily, you can use CDI here as well. So it's very simple to just wrap this in CDI. So and to do that, I'll have to create a CDI producer. And a CDI producer is kind of in Spring you would do these @bean annotations here and there. So you have a bean that you can inject to other places. But here I'll just call this one OpenAI producer. Doesn't really matter what it's called. It's just a Java class. It needs to have a CDI scope. I'll give it an application scope here. And this one needs to do a @producers. And here's an interesting name conflict we have in Jakarta EE because we have two @producers applications. So you need to be aware that you're using the enterprise inject and not the WRS, because the WRS, that's the Jakarta REST one, and that produces a JSON in your endpoints, and this produces a bean. And then I have a public OpenAI client, and it shouldn't return this one. What I can do is do the same thing I did with the just copy the OpenAI thing and just return the model. I'll oh, yeah, it has to return an open language model. So see, every time I use these AI things in the editor, it gets wrong. So trust yourself. So what this one does is it produces an OpenAI language model, and I'm just creating it here the same way I did with the other one. Of course, now it would be created every time you call the producers method. So it could be a good idea to do it in a post construct or something, so you won't create it again every time. So you can do this way more efficient than I'm doing here, because it's kind of the super simplest way. And now I can use add inject. I can take a OpenAI language model in here, and rather than creating it here, I can now just call the model.
You lost the screen share at some point.
I lost the screen share. Could be bad. So now I'm calling this model, and now it looks much more like a proper Jakarta application where I just inject the model and use it. So and if I call this one, it will do the same thing. But what if I really like Spring AI? And I like Spring AI and I wanted to use it. Well, you can actually use Spring AI with Jakarta EE. So if you have your enterprise application in an old Java EE or Jakarta EE environment, and you want to add some AI to it, like you have your bank running on Jakarta EE technology because it's safe, and you want to spice it up a little with some Spring AI, you can do that without changing your existing code. You can just add Spring AI to it. Let's do that. And this is why I've sort of in the Spring application and in the others, why I separated the AI things in a separate component, because this is the component I'm interested in. This is the one I want to inject or get access to in my Jakarta application. And in order to do this, since I just built this Spring, now I'll stop this one. So I'll go to it's Spring. So I just built it with package to use it locally. So in order to consume it from my other application, I need to have it in my Maven repository. So what I have to do is just a Maven clean install. But before I do that, there are a couple of things I need to do, because a jar, a Spring Boot jar isn't a regular jar. It is a Spring Boot jar. They have done something with it, so you cannot just use it as a dependency. So you need to fix your application a little bit. And one of the things you need to fix is to take away the, see if I can remember exactly what we're doing here. Yeah, you need to kind of disable the Spring Boot Maven plugin. So I'll just, sorry. Like so I'll comment out the Spring Boot Maven plugin. And then there is another thing I need to do. Since it's not a Spring Boot application any longer, I cannot test it as a Spring Boot application, because it will load the context and run their Spring Boot magic on it. So I need to get rid of the test part of it as well. And for it not to fail, since I have been a good citizen and written a test, or have one generated for me, it just loads the context. But since I'm not having a Spring Boot application and I'm not doing the testing things, this test will fail. And then I do whatever every good Java developer does with failing tests. You know what it is? Yeah, you delete it, right? So I'll just get rid of it. There's only tests. And now I should be fairly good to run the Maven install command. And now it's installed in my Maven repository. So I can consume it from my Jakarta EE application. So I'll just go to the POM file there. And now I don't need the line change stuff any longer, but I'll keep that around as well. So we have all three. And I want to add the dependency for please. I want to add the dependency. Then this. I want to add the Spring usually it just to help me a little bit there. If I just do this. So we have it, we give it a big spring. There we go. So I add the Duke spring just to verify that the point is not right. So I had the Duke, no, process. So I have the Duke Spring AI and AI Duke. It is one I've added to my profile. Duke's AI. So I have everything available. And I have to do the same CDI trick because I want to inject it with CDI. So I'll create a Spring AI producer. It's a class. It's going to be the same thing. Did I press escape? No. It's going to be this gives region layout. Application scopes. So in order to do this Spring injection thing, I cannot just do the invoke a constructor like I did with LangChain. I need to do a little Spring magic, and there are three things I need to do. And the first thing I need to do is just get a hold of the Spring context. So I get the application config, application context. That's kind of the Spring context. And from this context, I can register the beams that I'm interested in. So since I have the Spring AI application on my class path, I have this I register this Spring AI application with the Spring context. And when I've done that, the third thing I can do is to actually call the get bean on this context with the Spring AI service. And this is the component that I have here. So by doing these three things, I just grab the context, I register the application, and then I can get beans from it. And when I've done that, I can in the resource there, I can now add inject the private Spring AI service quality model there as well, and just get rid of this. So and now it's not the same model as I had here. So I have to do the model and then the call method, which is the call method I have there. So now I can inject it and call it directly. You think this will work? So this one, to get to the Jakarta AI. Yeah. And then now I'll run it in where I'll go. I'll run it in Payara. It's a little bit slower, but that's mostly because they don't have the core Maven plugin as IBM has or Red Hat, so they're using this cargo tracker plugin, which is a little slower. Payara itself is a very small footprint application server. They also have a micro edition that is just the minimum of what you need, and it just starts super quick. This cargo plugin is a little slower. And now, if I call this one, it calls through Spring AI. So you have all these kind of options. Anyone heard of Peloton? So Peloton is Oracle's implementation of Jakarta Core Profile. So that's one of all the others, since Core Profile is a subset of the platform, all the others also implement Core Profile, but Peloton is the only one that only implements Core Profile. So Peloton is it's kind of Oracle's answer to Quarkus and Spring Boot. And I'm not going to run everything here, but Peloton is more, since it's a compatible implementation of Core Profile, it's more Jakarta EE friendly, you can say, than Quarkus, for example. But they have the same kind of way of setting up things. Here I've added the LangChain for JS. We'll probably do the 0.35 thing here as well. So you can add this the same way I've done with Jakarta EE. I've also added the Duke Spring. I have if you go to the GitHub repository, you will see that I have a pre-made component for the Spring stuff, so you don't need to kind of transform your Spring Boot application into a component. And also the JSON binding and the stuff that you need from Jakarta EE. And code-wise, it looks very, you have the Jakarta EE application. This is all Jakarta REST. It has the resource for the path. And you see, this is exactly the same code that I've already shown you. It has the OpenAI producer and the Spring producer. And the one being used now is the I'll use the Spring thing. This one's not compiling, so let's do this. So this one is much faster than the others. Yeah, there you go. Because Peloton is built on from bottom up on virtual threads, so it plays for 21 and above, and that makes them very fast. So it's super fast up and running. The call there is over HTTP, so that's the same. That's for everything. But you see, it works with Spring as well, just the same as the others. So to wrap up, Jakarta 10, unfortunately, is the latest version out there, except Core Profile. 10 had a lot of changes and updates since 9. Jakarta 11 is under development. Core Profile is out there. We have a new specification for data. There are lots of updates in the others. Most of the updates in the blue ones are already available in Spring Boot. So Spring Boot 6 already incorporates most of the Jakarta 11 APIs. So in 2020, we released 9 with the namespace change. In 2022, we released 10 with the Core Profile. And in 2024/5, we'll releasing Jakarta 11. And in 2026, we will release Jakarta 12. So we're doing the 2-year cadence. In 2024, with the embracement of records and introduction of Jakarta data and support of virtual threads, we hope that the developer productivity and performance slogan we put on that release really works well. So it runs on 17.21. You can use 21 if you want. I used 23 in all of this. And as you see, AI works perfectly fine well with an old boring technology like Jakarta EE. So you can use all the new cool stuff with Jakarta EE. So if you want to learn about Jakarta E10, you can do this LinkedIn learning course. If you have an account with the library card or something, you can do it there. If you don't have an account on LinkedIn Learning, ping me on LinkedIn and I'll give you a free link to the course if you're interested. If you want to learn more about Jakarta EE, go to jakarta.ee. We have a starter on start jakarta.ee where you can generate projects for you. We're just about updating it to Jakarta 11. So you can generate the 11 and load it on. The demo code is on my GitHub, it's called AI. And if you want to learn more about me, you can find me on the Developer Advocate page on the Jakarta EE website. With that, I say thank you very much for having me. We're going to have a raffle, but I have if you want to ask some questions, I have three first questions. We'll get a gift. I have two of these nice, when you're in your swim shorts on the beach and you want to have a phone somewhere, it's very nice. It's a purse or a merce or whatever you want to call it. And also have, when it's cold in New York, you have these nice neck warmers. So the first one gets to choose, or the first two gets to choose. So any questions?
I'll follow. On the, I guess the thing this year is, of course, is agentic. So any API stuff on the agent side of stuff.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. I was thinking of should I do some agentic demos here, but I'm not sure about other good Java-based APIs on it, or are they still working on it? But in theory, the integration from an enterprise application would be exactly the same. You pull in some library that does the stuff for you and you call it. So the key here is if there is a Java library available or not. And if it's not available today, it will probably be tomorrow. So you get to choose.
Yeah, so you're right.
This one. Yeah, okay. Anyone else?
Other questions?
I've got a question. When you ran some of the examples, you got the same joke back twice. Why was that?
Okay, so the question is, I get the same jokes back. That'll probably be, I'm calling the same model. And maybe it is my account that gives me just the same answer back. I can show in the, if I go to the, I think it's the dashboard and the usage. The activity maybe that I can see which models it's being called, because I didn't give them any say use this GPT-4 or Mini or whatever.
Right.
So that was just the default on any. So in some calls you see I use the GPT 3.5 Turbo or sometimes 4.0 and sometimes Mini. So it's been different, but as you see it hasn't cost me anything yet. So it's just a matter of
You use the same joke, it did cost you something.
yeah, it did, but it's a no political thing, probably. It ran out of jokes. There's so much truth out there. So. Yeah. Anyone else, or we'll raffle it? Yeah, there we go.
You did the example with like, if you wanted to use like DeepSeek locally, because it's that simple.
So then you would just configure it to use the local one. So I configure it to use an external one. I could have used an internal one or something else. So if I wanted to use DeepSeek local, I would just call that one. Yes, you would have to set up your local one and in the code calls for the simple REST case where I use the REST client, here I've just used the local IP. And for the others, I would just configure it to where I would call it to, whether it's over HTTP or if it's with the, is it Llama that you can call the AI stuff directly or something, you can probably figure it out. But then it's a good demo to have to look at stuff as well, but then I probably need a new computer.
Small models.
All right. Thank you very much for listening and
Get that.
Yes.
So now, we don't lose